Ngayon naman po ay tumulak tayo sa pang-apat at huli po nating discussion. Ang ating pong tagapagsalita ay Assistant Secretary sa Department of Education at naging chairperson din po ng Committee on Episcopacy sa Philippine Central Conference upang talakayin po yung SOGIE Bill at paano po ito makakaapekto sa atin bilang iglesia. Narito po si Atty. Salvador Malana III.
Magandang hapon po sa inyo. Good morning everyone. Kaya pa ba? Kakayanin, ano? Oo. Yeah, I was told that I'm given 40 minutes to talk. I'll try my very best to make sure I'll finish it within 40 minutes. But let me tell everyone that more than honored and privileged, I feel blessed to be part of this GTalks. I've been monitoring this activity for since it started. It's just that I was not given the opportunity to join in the first one. I tell you that day in, day out, I think about the situation of the church. I pray about it. I also cried about it, especially in November during the Philippine Central Conference, when I felt that all the more there's need for us to talk, to engage in genuine conversation. And I think we need to start really defining, determining on our own terms how the United Methodist Church in the Philippines should move forward. And I'm also blessed. Thank you, Brother Ish, Doc Glenn, Doc Dan, for having me today. I'm also blessed hearing the position of Dr. Dan. And I'll tell you, Dr. Dan, that I join you in your position. Very quickly, let me just disclose that for the past months, I am in continuous talks, discussions with a number of our leaders in the Philippine Central Conference on my own because of the felt need na kailangan talagang pag-usapan natin ito. Meron ho tayong minanang legacy at napakahirap hong tanggapin na tayo ay magbabago na lang ng posisyon all of a sudden without having to go through the process of conversation of discernment. And really, I appreciate the Good Samaritan United Methodist Church for this initiative. Again, as I've said, I'm in continuous talks, and good thing he gave me the permission to mention his name with Chief Justice. Patuloy ho kami nag-uusap because we're trying to find ways to find a formula for unity without having to bargain away a traditionalist Methodist position. I think tama ho si Pastor Dan. It's too early to even live, It's too early na i-abandon yung both. There is hope that the Filipino Methodists could still be united and could still sustain yung fervor natin. And we can still be the Methodists that we are. It's just that the details are just too complicated, too complex. We need, sabi nga ni Pastor Dan, we have to have a thorough plan. Whether we do it before the 2024 or after the 24 is something that we have to decide on depending on what developments will happen. I just came from the Northern Philippines Annual Conference on a week vacation, and I took time to talk to many leaders and clergy there. Hanggang hating gabi, hanggang madaling araw, 3, 4, I talked to them and trying to get a feel of what their takes are on these issues. No, but anyway, the task that was given to me today is on the SOGIE Bill. No, if you're aware of the SOGIE Bill, sabi nga ni Brother Ish, this is one matter, this is one issue that's so important, especially in the life of the Methodists. No, matagal na hong pinagdedebatehan, matagal na hong pinag-uusapan ito, pero mas nagiging relevant ho siya sa ating mga Methodista ngayon dahil we are in the midst, of conversations, of discernment, of having to navigate through the difficulties, na dala ng mga issues ng ating iglesia ngayon. This is SOGIE SC. Dati ho, SOGIE Bill siya. Over time ay nadagdagan, nababago po yan. No? SOGIE stands for sexual orientation, no? Gender identity and expression, and sex characteristics. Nadagdagan na po yan. No? Equality Bill. It used to be embraced, na isama ho yan doon sa Comprehensive Anti-Discrimination Bill. Well, in 2000, this was first proposed by the late Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago sa Senate, at my counterpart bill po dyan, si Anak Bayan Party List Representative Eta Rosales. That was in 2000, no? In the 11th Congress. It did not appear in the 12th and the 13th Congress. It reappeared in the 14th Congress, and it stayed there for all Congresses afterwards. 15, 16, 17, 18. So from 2000 to more than the 22 years now, ay hindi pa ho nare-resolve at na pinagdedebatehan pa rin po yan. Kung sa atin ho sa Metodista, ay nung 1972 ay pinagdedebatehan na ho natin ang homosexuality. Sa Kongreso ho natin mula 2000 po ay pinag-aawayan, pinagdedebatehan na po yan. At kung titignan nyo ho yung evolution ng bill ho na to, nababago ho yung approach. Depende ho sa naging debate ng mga nakaraang Kongreso. Okay? By the way, I am Salvador Malana III. No? I'm a member of the Northern Philippines Annual Conference. My home church is Tuguegarao United Methodist Church, but I attend this church. Sige po, next slide please. Okay, this is my outline. So I will have to talk to you about my limitations and a number of disclaimers and disclosures para mailagay ho natin sa kahon. Mahirap na ho ang maparatangan. Mahirap na ho mapagbintangan. And I have to tell you what I can honestly tell you as coming from my own appreciation of facts and my own analysis and what are the truths that are happening outside. Katulad ng ginawa ho ni Pastor Dan, sinabi niya, yung nauna, research ko po yan. Okay? Verifiable, you can confirm them. But yung second part, akin po yan. Meron din ho akong ganyan. Na? So, I'll talk to you about the SOGIE Equality Bill, the basic considerations, and of course, the context and the rationale. Ano yung objective niyan? And the salient features, kasi doon nyo ho makikita kung ano ho talaga yung SOGIE Equality Bill. Pasadahan ho natin ang laman ng proposed legislation na yan. Kasi ho, kung titignan nyo lamang ho sa pangalan o sa titulo, parang napakaganda, equality. Diba? Inherent kasi sa atin na dapat nare-recognize ang ating mga karapatan and freedoms. Napakaganda hong pakinggan. No? Pero kung babasahin nyo ho, ano ho, saan ho patungo yan? Ano ho ang nilalaman ho niyan? Titignan ho natin, bagamat napaka-technical, papasadahan lang ho natin just to make a sense of what this bill really means to us or will mean to us. And then I'll talk about the arguments against the Equality Bill. No? Bakit marami hong umaayaw? May mga umaayaw. And then I'll talk to you about the human sexuality under the UMC Book of Discipline quickly. Malamang by this time, every one of you is already aware of the provisions of the Book of Discipline on human sexuality. Ayan ho ang nasa core ng debate ngayon ng mga progresibo ng mga traditionalist, yung human sexuality na yan, na nag-umpisa noong 1972, tulad nung nabanggit ho kanina. No? And then ano ho ang implication ng isang SOGIE SC pag naging batas, pag naging act na po yan, no? Pag legislated na, ano ho ang impact niyan sa atin bilang isang Metodista? No? By the time it becomes a law, asan na ho ba ang Metodista sa Pilipinas? Have we become autonomous? Are we still under the same UMC? Or whatever? We do not know. It's hard to speculate at this point. Kahit gabi-gabi, araw-araw mo isipin, napakahirap po, napakakomplikado ho ng sitwasyon natin. Okay, next slide please. I do not claim to be an expert on SOGIE matters, and therefore I do not claim that I have superiority of understanding matters involving SOGIE. It's just that I was given this task, and as a lawyer, I am comfortable trying to understand, trying to appreciate what this law means. Nakakadagdag na ho dyan ay metodista ho ako at active po ako din sa mga gawain ng ating iglesia, at sa naging past na tungkulin ko ho sa Methodist ay na-expose po ako sa mga ganitong usapin. And so I am here to provide you the facts that I have derived from articles, literature, and reference materials that I have obtained from many sources. But I would also be glad to give you my personal appreciation or analysis perspective on these issues. Let me disclose that I have voted. I was part of the delegation ng Philippines to the General Conference in 2016 and 2019. Let me disclose so that you would understand where I would be coming from. I voted in favor of the traditional plan in the 2019. Thank you. And as an individual, as a Methodist, I stand by the doctrinal and disciplinary position of the United Methodist Church on homosexuality, as well as same-sex union, as well as ordination, as they are currently articulated in the Book of Discipline. That is my personal position. But then again, and this is with emphasis, I consider the members of the LGBTQ+, the diverse community, as siblings in the Father, and they are as deserving of love and care as we are. Okay? Uulitin ko, I do not want to be misinterpreted as putting them in disrepute or putting them to shame or embarrassment. I have many very close friends who are members of this community. And so the love and the care remains despite this position. Okay, klaro po tayo doon? Okay, sige po. Next slide, please. Let's talk about this because we're talking about a bill, a proposed law, a proposed legislation. So hindi ho natin maihiwalay sa usapin yung ating fundamental law, which is the 1987 Philippine Constitution. These are some of the basic considerations when we discuss about the SOGIE Bill. And let me tell you also that these are the same considerations mentioned in the explanatory notes from 2000 from the Congress in 11th Congress and the 19th Congress. Paulit-ulit na binabanggit ho ito. And this is not debatable. Hindi ho natin kokontrahin ho ito. Article 2, Section 11 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution provides that the state values the dignity of every human person and thereby guarantees full respect of human rights. This is non-debatable, and even as Filipino Methodists, ganyan din ho ang ating pananaw. At ginagalang at rinerespeto ho natin pati po ang ating 1987 Philippine Constitution. No gainsaying, no debate. We're not arguing against that. Number 2, Article 3, the Bill of Rights of the 1987 Philippine Constitution provides, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall any person be denied the equal protection of laws. Ito po ang pinanghahawakan ng mga proponents ng equality bill na ito. Equality. Equal protection of laws. Napakaganda ho. Tunay nga naman. Everyone deserves to be treated equally. Everyone, and there is no exemption. Okay? But again, I'll use the word of Pastor Dan, which is very true. This is not absolute. Okay? Even in the point of the perspective of law, no, of our the law of the land. No? Iba pa ho, titignan ho natin mamaya yung the law of our church. No? Sige po. Again, the Philippines is a signatory to a number, no, to several international human rights instruments. Marami ho tayong covenants na pinasok, signatory ho tayo yan sa international arena, no? And basic ho sa ating batas na kasama ho, pag tayo ho ay pumirma doon, kasama ho yan sa batas ho natin. Yung commitment natin sa international agreements na yan, sa international instruments na pinirmahan natin, binding po sa estado natin, sa ating bansa at sa ating mga citizens. Number 4, basic consideration. The United Methodist Church has a long-standing and categorical, firm position on human sexuality. Hindi ho debatable yan. Klaro ho tayo doon. Just look at how, we started as a United Methodist Church. So if that was in 1972 until 2023, we have not changed position. But I do not know what will happen in 2024. That remains to be seen. And that exactly is the reason kung bakit medyo anxious tayo, because we do not know what's going to happen in 2024. So whatever happens there, no, doon nakaangkla ngayon yung decision natin, which I think, sa aking opinion lang naman, baka kailangan nating i-revisit. Kailangan ba tayo simulat sa poll, dependent tayo sa galaw ng 70+% Americans in the United Methodist Church? Can we not self-determine on our own terms, at our own timing and pace? Again, in my discussions with this group of lay people, wanting to find a formula for unity of the United Methodist Church in the Philippines, are eager, we're looking at the possibility of, why don't we disclose now? Why don't we declare now? Even if we have to wait for the 2024 so that makita natin yung kabuuan ng larawan, ng picture. Pero we declare now that we are desiring to be a united Filipino Methodist Church. I don't know. I think it will have to go through a lot of conversations, discussions, discernment process such as this. And that's why I feel I'm glad that I was made part of this GTalks. My next step would be to talk to some of you and see where we can, pick brains. No? Tignan natin. Next slide, please. Now, what's the context of the SOGIE Equality Bill? Our brothers and sisters, ito dilemma ko since kagabi pa. How should I call our kapatid sa LGBTQ+, brother, sister, and nakalagay doon sa equality bill? They do not want to be asked what their gender identity or expression is. That is even covered by some confidentiality if they wish so. So sabi ko, baka pag sinabi ko brother, sister, masampahan ho ako ng kaso. If this becomes a law. Hirap ako, kaya ginamit ko siblings na lang para gender neutral di ba? Siblings na lang. Okay. So our siblings, the LGBT class community allegedly live in a society where they are always isolated and excluded. This is how they advance. This is how they argue in favor of the bill. That they feel isolated, that they feel excluded. It's for you to make judgment. Tignan nyo nga sa GMA at saka sa ABS at saka sino ang pinakamaraming showtime doon? Are they excluded? Are they isolated? No, it's for you to make judgment on that. It is argued that legal protection against abuse and discrimination still eludes the Philippine LGBTQ plus community. That's their feeling. And out of respect, papakinggan natin if that is what they feel, that there is less protection of the law given to them. Of course, we need to see the facts. We need to see the true facts, the state of the condition of our siblings. No? And there is a need for the society to affirm a just, equitable, and fair inclusion for all. This is actually non-debatable. Because there is a need. It's a continuing need. It has to be there time and again. Paulit-ulit yan. It will never go away. The need not for the society to affirm a just, an equitable, and fair inclusion for all. I don't think that's debatable insofar as we are concerned. There are allegedly numerous cases of discrimination and hate crimes perpetuated against the members of the LGBTQ+ in the Philippines. This is presented as a matter of fact. This could be verifiable, and this could be debatable. No? This could be debatable. But then let's leave it to them. No? They feel that they are subject to hate crimes. Nakita naman natin yan eh. Ang tinitignan ho nila dyan, yung kay Laude, yung nangyari ho sa Clark ba yun? Pampanga? Subic, no? That was a hate crime. But napakahirap tignan kung ano yung naging kwento ho doon. And then si Gretchen Diaz, who entered a comfort room here in Quezon City. And in filing a case, nag-rely siya doon sa ordinansa ng Quezon City, Anti-Discrimination Ordinance against on the basis of SOGIE SC. No? So let's see, this is the context. Sinasabi ko lamang po sa inyo, ito po yung pinanghahawakan ng mga proponents, mga advocates ng SOGIE SC Equality Bill upang maisulong ho nila itong proposed legislation po na to. Okay. Next slide, please. Ano ho yung kanilang rationale? Ano kanilang objective? Bakit kailangan magkaroon ng ganitong batas? No? Ang sinasabi ho nila that the bill seeks to address the human rights gap by defining every person's fundamental right against discrimination. Pag nilatag daw ho, no, yung mga fundamental rights nila ay ma-address yung mga gaps sa human rights. Issues on discrimination, on hate crime, ma-address. And so you will find out later on that the proposed bill enumerates certain acts considered as discriminatory, which if violated, would render one, the violator, liable criminally, administratively, and civilly. Okay? And they say that the bill shall also serve as the Philippines' compliance to the international commitments. Mainam daw ito kasi sa pamamagitan ho nito ay nakakapag-comply tayo sa ating commitment sa international government, no? Sa covenant natin, sa mga agreements natin sa international area, no? And the law seeks to protect individuals and communities that are at a greater risk of experiencing human rights violations on the basis of sexual orientation, on the basis of gender identity, gender expression, and sex characteristics. All right? Okay, that's how it's articulated in Section 4 of Senate Bill 139 in the 19th Congress. Asan na ngayon ito, bill na to? Pumasa ho ito on third reading sa lower house. Okay? Kaya medyo kinabahan po yung mga nag-oppose. But when it reached the Senate, ay meron hong overwhelming na bumoto so that from the committee level ay umakyat sa plenary ng Senado. But when it reached the plenary, nag-move po si Brother Senator Joel Villanueva that it will be reverted to the Committee on the Rules on the basis that, ba't minamadali nyo? Minsan pa lang kayo nag-hearing, aakyat nyo na kaagad, rine-railroad nyo naman. No? So ang sabi niya, ang daming sulat sa akin ng mga various religious groups against it. They were not heard. So we will revert it to the committee level. Now, Ano ang sagot ng mga proponents and advocates of the bill? Dilatory, delaying tactics na naman ito. No, 2000 pa ganyan na ang approach. Ganyan ho talaga ang labanan. No? It's different sa aking pananaw. Iba ho ang landscape sa House of Representatives. Parochial po yan. Kapag yung mga advocates gumalaw doon sa kanya-kanyang distrito, no? Napupwersa po minsan bumoto yung mga congressman. Pagdating sa Senate, ito yung mga institutional, yung mga naglalabi, church groups and all, educational institutions, human rights, Commission on Human Rights, other government agencies. Medyo institutional po yan. Pag sa Congress, sa lower house, medyo parochial po yung mga concerns nila. Yun ho pagkakaiba dyan. No? So anyway, we are now in the 19th Congress, nakapending sa Committee on the Rules. The 19th Congress ay tatlong taon ho yan hanggang 2025. Okay? Titignan ho natin kung ano mangyayari hanggang 2025. Meantime, we have 2024 to take care of as Methodists. No? All right. Next slide, please. Huwag kayo matutulog, ha? Nag-ahit pa ako ng bigote para lang dito sa ano natin. Sayang naman yung effort ko pag tinulugan ho ninyo ako. Okay, so ano po yung salient features ng SOGIE Equality Bill? Ano yung mga medyo magandang pag-usapan ho dyan sa bill ho na yan? Of course, yung batas ho na yan, yung bill ho na yan, declares as policy of the state to exert efforts to address all forms of discrimination, marginalization, and violence on the basis of SOGIE SC and thus promote human dignity. Kung titignan yun, tama nga naman that the state will exert effort and that could be made as a policy. Polisiya ng Estado na dapat nagbibigay ng protection. But you look, ito akin lang ha, lalaliman nyo lang ng konti. Discrimination, it's a question of fact. Is there such a thing as discrimination? Marginalization, what does it mean to be marginalized? You're not given the right to participate in political, economic affairs. Ilan na ho ang mga mayayaman na nasa LGBTQ? Sino ho ang marginalized? Yung mga nasa below poverty line. The more that they are marginalized because they cannot, practically engage in political, economic activities. Pero the LGBTQ, are they deprived of the right to participate in these activities? They have a seat in Congress. They're represented in Congress, in many executive positions in government. That's just mine. Okay. Now, the SOGIE Bill defines discrimination, and this is where I am bothered. Again, this is me. Okay, this is where I am a bit bothered. Because it defines discrimination as follows. It refers to any distinction, which is a question to me. Di ba you want to be recognized as LGBTQ and you don't want to be distinguished from the rest? Distinction. Okay pa yung exclusion because that's a bit, klaro naman yan. If you're part of a society, of a community, and you get excluded, pero your rights and freedom are violated. But to be distinguished is what you ask for. You want to have a different category of human beings, so you need to be distinguished as a matter of fact. Okay? So that's what bothers me. I don't really have a clear answer for that at this point. I'm glad. Restriction or preference which is based on any ground. As a lawyer, pag sinabi mong any ground, all-encompassing. Okay. Now, the use of the word such as, sa aming mga lawyers, by way of example lang ho yan. So, yung ground mo is not limited to sex or SOGIE SC anymore. So, if you violate a member of the community on any ground, even if it's not related to SOGIE SC, pwede ka malagay sa alanganin just simply because of the words that were used. Okay? This is what bothers me. And which has the purpose, ito again, the purpose or effect. may criminal liability ka dito. Klaro sa aming mga abogado, yung tinatawag naming malainse, yung you have the motives, the intent, criminal intent. No? Yung malum prohibitum, by clear act, defined act, you can be made criminally liable. Pero ito, not according to your intent. Not according to a clear act, but effect. Okay, effect. Sa kanya. Now, gender identity and gender expression under this proposed law are defined in a very subjective manner. It's the internal feeling, internal notion, internal perception. So, because of your internal notion, you feel that you are being deprived, even if the intention was not to deprive you, deny you of your rights, or to violate you, then I will have a case against you. I'll cite an example, simplify. Nagmamaneho ako reckless. Let's say nakasagasa ako na sideswipe ko yung isang LGBT who happens to be LGBTQ. I do not have the intention. It's out of reckless negligence. No? The effect, kaya ka naging reckless kasi wala kayong ano sa amin. Ang tingin nyo sa amin, ganito, hindi ka, paano ka mag-argue sa court ngayon? Because you are being brought to court by reason of the effect of your acts. As, as understood by them. Nakukuha nyo po? Kaya napakahirap po. Yun lang ay akin lang po. Maaari hong mali ako. Ay pananaw lamang ni Badong, na whether direct or indirect, of effect of purpose or effect of nullifying or impairing the recognition pala yan, access to, enjoyment, or exercise by all persons on an equal footing. If they feel that they are not treated fairly and equally, the burden of proof is nasayo ngayon. That you do not have the intentions. Ang hirap po. Okay? Okay, ito, napakalabo sa akin kahit ilang beses kong basahin. The actual sex or SOGIE of the person subjected to discrimination shall not be relevant for the purpose of determining whether an act of discrimination has been committed, regardless kung ano ba siya, transsexual, pansexual, homosexual, sa dami ho niyan. Kasi hindi ho pare-pareho yan. Yung sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, and sexual characteristics, marami ho yan, klase. No? Pwedeng combination of any of those. Kaya ang hirap po intindihin yan. Baka evolving pa ho yan. Baka magkaroon na ho ng sariling dictionary ho para ho dyan. Very, when I first attended the GenCon in 2016, ang sinusubukan ko intindihin yung LGBTQI. Nandun ako, nadagdagan ng A. Tapos so dumadami na, nalagyan na ng plus. So madami na ho yan. So open-ended na po yan. Depending because of the subjectivity of gender identity. Because it arises from the person's notion of himself or herself. So kung meron siyang ibang notion of herself that we have never encountered in our life before, nasa kanya na yon. This is how I describe myself. As a matter of fact, the proposed law says you don't have to ask them unless they offer. Because if you force them to tell you what they are or who they are, then you will be violating their rights. See? Pero pag tinanong mo sa babae at sa lalaki, sex, sa mga biodata, we're freely able to say male or female. Sila, under this law, they can withhold information if they wish to. So how can you protect them under the law? How are you going to treat them? Di ba? Kasi there are laws that are anchored on the biological ng tao. So, anyway, yeah. Baka mapalalim ho, umabot ho tayo ng gabi. Next slide, please. The bill enumerates some 21 discriminatory acts. While in the previous versions, merong nilagay na analogous. Pag linagyan mo kasi yan sa batas ng analogous, anything similar to those mentioned, all-encompassing. The good thing is, dito sa 19th Congress version, wala. Pero hindi pa rin ho nakaka-relieve. Kasi nga, pagbasahin mo yung 21 acts na yan, napaka-open-ended pa din ho. Susubukan ko hong pasadahan mamaya just to give you a sense of what I'm talking about. Bakit may problema ho. No? Maganda yung layunin, maari. Magandang pakinggan because of we talk about rights, we talk about equality, we talk about freedoms. No? Number 4, it provides criminal, civil, and administrative liabilities for violation. No? So may criminal, civil, and administrative liabilities for violation. Now, if you commit any a crime, no, other than this one, kapag SOGIE SC, LGBTQ yan, and on the basis of SOGIE SC, aggravating circumstance yan. Ibig sabihin mo sa batas, na sa criminal law, makakadagdag pa ho yan sa penalty mo. Pero pag naka-reckless imprudence ka sa babae, sa lalaki, you don't have that kind of aggravating. Pero pag nasagasaan mo ay homosexual, at cliname niya at pinakinggan siya, sinabi niya, hindi mo kasi ako binibigyan ng respeto kasi bakla ako or ano, that could be an aggravating circumstance. So where is equality there? Because it's not given to the male and the female, to the man and woman, but you give it to the LGBTQ. That's the question. No? You're seeking for equality, but you're asking for special status. Okay? I was talking to my wife early morning when we were preparing this. Sabi ko, baka mababash ako. Sabi ko, it's high time siguro that we call spades as spades. For as long as we convey to them that the love is there and the care is there, we can call spades as spades. And I think that's the attitude that we need, especially these times, itong panahon na ganito ng pinagdadaanan ng ating iglesia. Yeah, again, we love them and we care for them. No? Creates a persons of diverse SOGIE SC protection help desk. Sa mga police stations, di ba may women's and children's desk, child's desk. Lalagyan na ho ng para naman sa LGBTQ. Yun. So, ganun ho ang ano doon. Provides for empowering portrayal of persons of diverse SOGIE SC in media. Dito ho ay ine-encourage sa pamamagitan ng batas na dapat i-portray ang LGBTQ, no, sa media as, kailangan ma-underscore yung acceptance, hindi lang tolerance, acceptance nila. So there's a special, for treatment here. Creates an interagency council on SOGIE SC. Magkakaroon ho ng ahensya, no, not a structure, it's an interagency council where various departments of the government will be represented in that council. Sila ho ang in charge, ang mandato ho nila ay sila ho ang titingin doon sa mga information dissemination, no, as well as monitoring ng compliance ng batas, no, para na ho yung ARTA, yung pagmo-monitor ng compliance on anti-red tape. So ito, meron na ring monitoring team composed of various agencies of the government. Okay? And number 9, there is earmark appropriation for the implementation of the law when it becomes a law. Ibig sabihin, may budget from the national government as well as from the local government. Earmark yan, ibig sabihin, ilalagay sa batas. So, i-earmark mo na yan sa pondo ng LGU. Ito, para dito. Parang yung special education fund na a certain percentage of the real taxes that we pay sa LGU, naka-allocate yan na pondo para sa education. Ganyan din ho ang mangyayari. May porsyento ng pondo ng LGU that will now be appropriated for implementation of the law. Okay, next slide please. What are the arguments against the SOGIE SC Equality Bill? Many say that there is no compelling interest for the proposed law. Walang malaking dahilan para magkaroon ng ganyang klaseng batas. Because the research show, no, ito ho ay ginamit din mismo doon sa explanatory note ng legislation, yung bill. That 73% from Pew Research Center of the respondents, no, sa Philippines consider they accept the homosexuals. No? Sa SWS, 60% say that they know one or two or three members of the LGBTQ. Okay? But overriding, an overwhelming number would show that while they would like to accept the LGBTQ, they do not agree, no, with same-sex marriage. Yan ang Filipino, as shown by research. Ginamit mismo sa explanatory note. If I were to debate with the proponent, I would say, sa explanatory note mo pa lang, you're already showing that there is no need for that because you are accepted by the Filipinos. What we do not accept ay ganyan, ganyan. That we tolerate. Now, is there a case of discrimination? How isolated or how do you call this? How grave? No, yung mga not grave rampant, rampant, no, is that? Show us the numbers. No? Show us the numbers, because if you don't show the numbers, then hardly this will sell, no? Number 2, the SOGIE Equality Bill undermines the Equal Protection Clause. Why? While they say that this is in fulfillment, no, the objective is to ensure equality among persons, no, sa community natin, sa society natin. It, in effect, the law as crafted, as written, no, creates a special privilege or status based on SOGIE SC. Why special privilege? Is there such similar law given to those people marginalized below the poverty line, the disabled, yung mga mahihirap, yung mga marami? Why don't we just, consider you as katulad nila, so that we just look at discrimination in a generic sense? Because we have enough laws against discrimination. The Constitution itself, the Civil Code, the Penal Code, we have several laws against discrimination already. So why create a special category, a special status, and provide a special privilege to this category of our brothers and siblings? No? The SOGIE SC Equality Bill undermines academic freedom. You imagine under the law, no? You cannot exclude them. You cannot deny them admission sa school on the basis of their SOGIE SC. As Methodists, therefore, if we want to be strong and on our position on this, at sabihin mo sa kanila, you cannot cross-dress inside the school. Or we do some, hindi lang orientation, lectures or what on this, no? Pwede kang kasuhan if they feel that they are put to embarrassment. They're embarrassed if you keep telling them that you should not be doing that, you should be doing this. Because the law says, curtailed ang freedom of speech natin. That's a problem for our pastors. The moment you start talking about our mga preachers natin, academic freedom, because academic freedom includes the right of the academic institution to choose who to admit. No? Ang ganda ho, nung binasa ko po yung, kasi in our discussion with Chief Justice, he was talking to us about religious freedom. And there's a case which he penned. I forgot the year. It's Estrada versus someone. I forgot. I was just reading it yesterday. Diniscuss ni Chief Justice yung academic freedom. At sinasabi niya at ni-remind niya kami dun sa discussion na ibabaw yung na yan, yung right na yan, yung religious freedom, the freedom of religion and the freedom of belief. Nandyan yan sa taas. No? So between these freedoms that they are, saying, and the freedom of religion and the freedom of belief. The freedom of religion and freedom of belief takes precedence. Yun ang sinabi doon sa decision ng Supreme Court. No, it's a landmark case. Sinundan pa yan ng mga iba pang kaso at they referred to that ponensya by Chief Justice Puno. It also undermines freedom of religion as well as the freedom of belief as mentioned. No, medyo mabigat itong mga usapin na to. I do not wish to get into details, but clearly for us who understand the law, who study constitutional law and political law, medyo ito yung doon sa previous version ni Senator Pangilinan, meron siyang nilagay that notwithstanding academic freedom as well freedom of religion and belief will not be curtailed or parang ganan. In this 19th Congress version, tinanggal yon. And I can surmise, I can only speculate na tinanggal yon because that will self-defeat. Pag nilagay nila yan, magsa-self-defeat yung proposed legislation. Lalabas mismo, the very bill itself that contradictory na siya, inherently contradicting na siya. So malamang kaya tinanggal yan sa 19th Congress version. Okay? Next. Parental authority. Meron home provision diyan, madaanan ho natin mamaya. Sinasabi na yung parents, cannot force the child who has already determined kung ano ang identity or expression niya. Parental authority. Many would say that the bill, equality bill, is in the nature of a class legislation which is not allowed. You are legislating only for the benefit of a particular class. That cannot be done. The bill encompasses concepts that are not suitable for legislation, like very subjective gender identity and gender expression. They're very subjective because they emanate from the person's self-perception. Yung perception niya, ang hirap nun. So paano mo i-fix ngayon yung batas? How would you know that you're violating the law or not? If that is subject to someone else's perception or understanding of himself or herself. The bill has provisions that are overly broad and vague. May mga words po dyan na ginamit na ang hirap pong i-interpret na hindi mo malaman kung kailan mo siya mababiolate, kailan mo siya ma-comply. Subukan ho natin pasadahan mamaya before I go to the UMC thing. It's counterproductive. Why? Why is it counterproductive? Kasi it might, if I'm going to convince the advocates, proponents of the SOGIE equality bill, sabihin ko, it's counterproductive. It will not work in your favor. Why? Because given the predominant sentiment of the Filipino people, as shown by the several years that it's not, being passed. Kung hindi pa klaro kung ano ang reflection na yan ng sentimento ng Philippine society, it will have the effect of a backlash of resentment. Pag pumasa sa bill yan, magkakaroon ng backlash yan because the minority was able to push its cause. Kaya nga pag minadali yan ni Railroad at hindi pinakinggan yung mga religious groups, the Christian groups, mahirap po yan. And we are a predominantly Christian nation. It's going to have a backlash on practical terms. So it's going to be counterproductive to them. Sige, next. Okay, before I go dito, pwede ho bang ma-request na may binigay po akong PDF file nung SB 139. Quickly lamang po. Can you just go straight to section 4? As the section 4? Discriminatory acts. Sige. Yan. Sige. Konting pasensya na lamang po, malapit na akong matapos. Sige po, quickly on this, para lang klaro ho tayo, advert Ayan, no? But it has the institutions, if they become, religious in so far as implementing our beliefs on human sexuality, enforcing our human beliefs on human sexuality, we might run into trouble with this provision. Now, when you ban this, when you prohibit this, ganyan, and if they violate, and then you cannot do anything about it because hindi mo sila po pwedeng bigyan ng sanctions, no? Sige po. Letter F. Refusing or revoking the accreditation of or plan, no, to organize any organization. Ang hirap. They want to put up a group. And you have these regulations inside your institution. Even in our, hindi lang sa academic institutions, in our businesses as paano pag magbuo sila? Meron pang ang provision dyan. Kailangang mag-create ng grievance committees within those business organizations. Grievance committee addressing issues on SOGIE SC. Okay. Denying medical and other health services. Ito, hindi ko po alam kung ano ho yung nuances nito, pero I can imagine if they want to, subject themselves to some changes, and you don't want to do it, they can bring you to court. Okay? Denying an application for or revoking a professional or other similar kind of license. What about marriage license? Okay, what about marriage license? Tanong ko lang yan, ha? Kasi nga, hindi ko alam kung ano yung wording or intent nila nito. I, denying a person access to or use of establishments, blah, 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 including housing. So, saan mo sila i-house? Sa girls' dormitory or sa boys' dormitory? Ang preference nila sa girls, pero would you want your daughters or your sister inside? It's a tough decision that you have to make. Okay. Yeah, so we don't know kasi I don't know where to start kasi if at all this is going to pass, then they would have to have separate facilities for them. But then again, on the Equal Protection Clause, are they not being given a special privilege? Hindi mo nga mabigay sa sa ibang ibibigay mo sa ganitong category na. So these are just my thoughts on some of the provisions, no. Ito for pastors, engaging in public speech meant to shame, insult, vilify, or which tends. Yun ang problema. Yung meant, medyo kapag merong intent talaga si pastor to shame. Pero si pastor, it's not to shame, but in the spirit of, fellowship, of ministry and all. But nakalagay doon, which tends, I'm now on letter M, which tends to incite or normalize the commission of discriminatory acts, practices. Ang hirap ngayon mag-sermon, ang hirap ngayong lumabas. Mahirap na ho yan. Letter P, preventing a child under parental authority, custody, or guardianship, from exhibiting or expressing one's sexual orientation. Letter P, if you prevent a child under a parental custody, authority, or guardianship from exhibiting. Bakit ka sumasayaw ng mga ganyan? Ba't nagsusuot ng ganyan? Tough. Letter Q, adopting a measure or practice of general or neutral application, which fails to provide for mechanism. Ito ang klaro na special treatment kasi bawal pa pala gumawa ng isang mekanismo na applicable para sa lahat, na gender neutral. Ang sinasabi, dapat may special na mekanismo para sa LGBTQ. Hindi po pwedeng gender neutral lang. If this is not a clear indication of a special treatment or status, I don't know what this is. No? So, yan po ang present na articulation ng bill. I don't know if it's going to change. I don't know if the same thoughts that I mentioned today ay lalabas din sa deliberation, but we hope that these things will be seen, will be discussed. No? Now, going to the UMC, pakibalik na po doon sa PowerPoint ko pong PDF. Opo, now on the United Methodist Church Book of Discipline, klaro ho tayo. Categorical po ang ating position on human sexuality. Breakdown ko lamang po, found called from various provisions of BOD. That sexuality is God's gift, good gift to all persons, and we call everyone to responsible stewardship of this sacred gift. Hindi ko na-explain. I'm sure madali nyo na hong ano yan. Although all persons are sexual beings, whether or not they are married, sexual relations are affirmed only with the covenant of monogamous heterosexual marriage. Number 3, all persons regardless of age, kita nyo dito, gender, marital status, sexual orientation, are entitled to have their human and civil rights ensured and to be protected against violence. Okay? Sige, next po. All persons are individuals of sacred worth, created in the image of God. And I recall Pastor Dan mentioning earlier, no? This is not absolute. You know? The UMC does not condone the practice of homosexuality and considers this practice incompatible with Christian teaching. In many discussions regarding this, emphasis was made on the word practice. That's why we do not discriminate against the members of the community. We do not exclude them. We do not reject them. What we are concerned about as a Methodist is the practice of homosexuality. Okay? We seek to live together in Christian community, welcoming, forgiving, and loving one another as Christ has loved and accepted us. Hindi nyo pwedeng paghiwalayin yung number 5 and 6 because I think the mandate, the prescription is for us not to condone, at the same time to be welcoming. Not of the practice, but of the person who has a sacred worth. Okay? That's how I look at it. Because they are inseparable. Itong ng 5 and 6 na yan. They have to be read together. So what we do not condone is the practice, but we are welcoming and forgiving and we do ministry to the person. Ano? Not the practice. Okay? Next. Next slide po. We implore families and churches not to reject or condemn lesbian and gay members and friends. That's clear. We commit ourselves to be in ministry for and with all persons. Non-discriminatory, inclusive. That's how we look at our ministry as the UMC. Elsewhere in the BOD, the Book of Discipline, the UMC does not allow the ordination of self about practicing homosexuals and forbids the performance of same-gender, same-sex unions in the UMC sanctuaries and by its clergy in any setting. Paragraph 304 of the Book of Discipline. We do not know what's going to happen in 2024. Okay? We have yet to see. Next, please. What then would be the implication or the impact of this SOGIE Equality Bill to the United Methodist Church? If you come to think of it, while it doesn't mention same-sex union, I personally feel, this is personal, no? This is just my, I'll borrow the words of Pastor Dan. You can hold me accountable for this opinion that I will bring up, no? That the bill could very well be a prelude to same-sex union and the free practice of homosexuality. Ang word ko dito many months back when I was discussing this to some friends, it's a creeping intrusion. Parang unti-unti, ginagapang niya hanggang sa mapasok niya. Kung titignan niyo ang effect ho nito, ay through legislation, binabago niya ang pananaw para mabago ang kultura. Pag nabago ang pananaw, nabago ang kultura, mas madali na ho yung mga ibang bagay. The thing is, and the blessing the Filipinos enjoy is that we are predominantly Christians and we are predominantly traditionalists insofar as this is concerned. No? So, but then again, kung hindi natin nakita yan, unti-unti hong gagapangin yan. It's a creeping intrusion into our, it's going to disturb us sooner or later. So it's a prelude. That's my take there. The SOGIE SC Equality Bill would dilute the doctrinal position of the UMC on human sexuality. While we say we can independently stand on our doctrinal position, although we have, issues going on, we are on the rocks as mentioned by Pastor Dan, kapag na-legislate po yan, ang unang effect po niyan is the notion that it will create among the Filipino people. That culturally, ito na tayo. Na nagbago na tayo. Iba na ang mindset natin. And, it has an effect on what we stand firmly on as a Methodist. Iba na ho yung landscape ng ministry natin. You start talking to people na parang sasabihin outdated na yung doktrina ng Methodista kasi nagbago na ang kultura. Ito yung kinakatakot natin na yung authority of the Scripture becomes subservient to the culture. And that will bring me, if given the chance, to talk about the option 3B of Pastor Dan. That's why I go for a full central conference. Sinabi ko na full central conference autonomy. A self-determining Philippine United Methodist Church. Because we do not want to be affected, we would want to have that shield against the political, cultural, ethical dilemma of the Americans. Because I think the Filipino Methodists are able and willing and predisposed for healthy, genuine conversation. And that is what is missing in us. Bago tayo may mga nag-decide, may mga position na, pero wala pang conversation. Thanks to GTalks. Because we need. In fact, sinabi ko sa NPAC, let's do something like what Good Sam is doing. In fact, pre-preempt ko na, I will speak on a matter of privilege in our annual conference to ask the annual conference to open up all local congregations for this kind of discernment process so that everyone will understand. C.S. Lewis said, to paraphrase, the only way truth will come out is when, to be enlightened is when the truth comes out. Paano lalabas yung truth if we don't discuss, we don't talk, no? The only way we can come up with a clear decision on these things. Part of the discernment should always be conversations. Okay, so I thought that if the SOGIE SC Equality Bill becomes a law, the doctrinal position will be shaken. The landscape for ministry would be different. And as a Methodist, mas mainam ho sana kung wala na lang ho yan. We have a clear path to, to our ministries. The SOGIE SC Equality Bill could weaken the ministries of the UMC through its academic institutions and other organizations. I always say na napakalaking tool, very potent tool ng ating ministry bilang Methodista, yung mga academic institutions. If we are able to optimize, maximize our resources, our academic institutions. So I feel if the autonomy comes, we are now Filipino United Methodists, and the revival is deliberately, conscientiously done by Methodist congregations. Dapat kasama na ho dyan yung political structure natin. We make sure that we fully use our academic institutions to spread our, to do our ministry. And the thing with SOGIE SC Bill, if nawalan tayo ng academic freedom, para kang meron ng anay sa loob, napakahirap gumalaw. Masisira ka na, nagka-crumble ka na, hindi mo na lang namamalayan. You're losing the power, no, as an academic, a Christian academic institution. Okay? Sige po, last slide ko na po ata yan. Salamat po at God bless you. Just one more minute please. I was speaking with Brother Ish. I said that I was thanking him for this opportunity. But I said, please, kakapalan ko ang mukha ko. I'd like to be part of this in even the near future. I'd like to talk about the framework for the Philippine United Methodist Church as an autonomous. I'm personally preparing a document for that I wish to give to church leaders. It's a lay movement. The reason why it's a lay movement because we do not want to be subjected to or affected by the rigidity of the structures of our clergy, where it's very hard for them to speak out. If it's a grassroots, the lay should initiate this, and hanggang sa ano, no? And I'm also in the process of doing a study on the trust clause. Why it's not a good way. It's not a good anchorage or to disaffiliate, no? And why an autonomy under the book of discipline strictly is not the way forward. It has to be a secession, but to maintain the unity, we have to move as a Filipino Methodist Church so Central Conference level. I do not know where that will lead us, but I think we've got to start thinking about it, praying about it, and talking about it. Thank you at magandang umaga po sa inyo lahat.